Jamie? Yay. All right. So before we get started, oh wait, just 1 second. All right. So before we get started, I just have to go over a few things with you. So if you can't hear me, I suggest that you use earbuds or headphones, um, or definitely make sure that you turn up the volume on your computer. Uh, and if you still can't hear me, then you're probably not hearing this right now, so I don't know what to tell you. No, if you can't hear me, maybe try a new computer. Um, I don't know if you can do this on your smartphone, but probably it doesn't work as well on your smartphone. You might have trouble seeing the text and pictures and stuff. And I would imagine that using a computer would be best. So try to use a computer with good sound, good headphones. Yeah, those would be the things that I recommend you do. Okay, so next, if you have any questions about any of the information, anything that I said in the video, of course you can always email me, and I uh, or ask me about it in class. I recommend that you actually have like a little piece of paper or a notebook next to you while you watch this video. That way you can write down any questions you have so you don't forget it. Um, and if you do feel like you need extra help, like you want to talk to me about it in class, um, you can always come and meet me at the end of class, and we can review this information. Uh, and even if you tried this video and you found it too difficult for some reason, uh, maybe we can arrange some sort of meeting outside of class. Oh, and sorry, getting back to this one. Uh, if you hear any noises that don't sound like me, that's probably my dogs. So sorry about that. They're very rude dogs. Anyways, let's move on. So this is a video class or an e-class or online class. I don't know what the school calls it, but um, for this class or for this my class, I'm trying to treat this like a normal class, like we would do in a classroom. So it will help you to just kind of act like you are in a real class. That way you can understand me better, I think. Um, and since this is kind of like a real class, you will probably need class materials like, your book, notebook, pen, pencil, I don't know, water, whatever else you bring to class. Uh, just because you might miss something while I'm talking about it, so probably best just to have everything ready now. So although this is like a real class, it is of course not a real class. Uh, what I would suggest, if you take a break during this video, be very careful. Um, you can pause the video, but if you close the video window, unfortunately, you have to start from the beginning again. Um, or at least that's what I think, or that's what I've been told. Uh, I've heard that if you close the window and open it again, and then move the video cursor or the video time back to the spot where you stopped, eClass will not mark you as watching the video. So just be careful. try not to close the window. Uh, Also, make sure that you finish the video completely. Um, some of my students in the past, when they watched the video, they didn't watch all of it. They stopped like 5 minutes before the video ended and they closed the window. And then eClass marked them as not having watched the video. So just be careful. Try to make sure you let the entire video finish so that you don't have any problems. Also, since this is a makeup class, the schedule may have changed. So please and check the homework schedule or check to see if the schedule has changed or any due dates for the homework have changed. Um, the schedule that I gave you at the beginning of the term, it may not be right now. It may be too old because of this makeup class. So I may have changed that schedule. And if I did change the schedule, you should be able to find it on eClass. It should be in the same place as the class PPTs. And if you can't find it for some reason, please email or message me. Um, that way, maybe I've forgot to put it up. If you do email me or message me and tell me about it, of course, there's going to be some bonus points. Um, yeah, so just make sure you get that. Next thing, you can watch this video with other classmates. In fact, I would suggest that you watch this video with other classmates just because it'll be, I think, more enjoyable or it's always helpful to have somebody next to you in case you need to ask questions. They might be able to help you. But if you do decide to watch this with other students, all the students that watch it together, if they watch it on one computer, they all need to take their turn and log in and watch the video fully under their account or with their account. And the reason for this is uh, to get the attendance, oops, to get the attendance mark and class points. Your ID or your account needs to show that you watched it before the closing date. So I can't remember what time this what time this class closes, but it's usually you need to watch it. It says the Friday of the last class, so before Saturday of the week that this class is due. So just be careful about doing that. And just to make sure you understand this, let's say student A logs into eClass and student A and student B share a computer and they both watch it together. Only student A would be marked as viewing the class in this situation. Uh, so student B would still need to log into eClass and play the video too. Um, there's a couple of ways you could do this. You could have two computers playing at the same time and maybe just turn off the sound on one of the computers so it doesn't have like some weird echo effect. Or you could just use one computer, and after student A has finished watching it under their account, student B can or student A can log out, and then student B can log in and play the video too. So just keep that in mind. And last thing, sorry that any kind of drinking sounds or any kind of sound that feels like an ASMR video. That's not the purpose here. I'm not trying to start my own YouTube channel here. Uh, my recording equipment may not be that good, so uh, if you hear me drinking, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be disgusting. It's just sometimes I need water. Anyways, I think that's pretty much it. So we can go ahead and get started. Make this full screen. So going to start with the presentation 3 guide. Um, and yeah, let's get started. So just like your other presentations, this one will be 2 to 4 minutes. The presentation topic for this presentation is a student from our class. Your topic cannot be obviously a picture, place, idea, or object. Um, we did pictures before, we did objects, and those other two we haven't done. But uh, for this presentation, unlike the other ones, this will be the first presentation that you have to do in front of another student. So for this one, uh, one student will present and then the next student will present. So just to be clear, when you're doing this, there will be me, you, and another student. Um, so we're kind of working up towards our project presentations when you have to present in front of the entire class. So this is kind of just a step towards that. Um, and just like all of the other presentations, presentation 1, presentation 2, you will have something to focus on. In this case, you're going to focus on the person, right? So before we really get into this, we've already kind of talked about presentation 1 and presentation 2 in the previous presentation guides. And now with presentation 3, you're probably starting to see this kind of pattern forming. Um, so all of the presentations have been about something that we can focus on, like an object, a picture, and now a person. So these are kind of like real world things, um, and all of this. It seems like objects, pictures, people, all of these things seem like really simple, basic stuff. And there's a reason for this. Uh, you know, this is all helping us as a class to prepare for the project presentations. Because the project presentations you will do with a group, but in front of the entire class. And in addition to that, for the projects, you will be focusing on your PPTs. Um, so for presentation 1, 2, and 3, you have object, pictures, and people. For the project, it's a PPT. So this will be like your focus. And again, you won't be using a script, right? Um, so uh, you know the all of these assignments, like presentation 1, 2, and 3, um, the information that you've been presenting is not very complicated. I don't think you've had to do any kind of research for this. And the reason why the reason why I wanted you to do presentations on simple topics was that I wanted you to learn the presentation skills, the planning skills, um, to help you become more effective presenters. Um, what I wanted you to learn is actually how to do presentations. Uh, uh, this is actually more important than doing like a bunch of research and then putting a bunch of uh, PPTs together to make presentations. Uh, the reason is the skills that you use in this class and the skills that we learned can be used in other parts of your life. So in your major courses, you might have to do some presentations. Um, in your future, when you get a job, you may have to do some presentations. So my goal in this class has been to give you skills that would help you plan or learn how to plan your presentations, but also learn how to do your presentations, because that second part, doing presentations, is always really scary for most people, right? It can be very it can make people very nervous to be talking in front of people, and that's what we've been working on. So if I made you do a bunch of research, you would not be learning those skills. So we're going to go ahead and get started just like we always do with the other presentation assignments. We're going to start with a little practice presentation. Um, you are going to do a 30-second presentation about me, your favorite teacher, Jamey. So it says here you're going to present to your group. If you are with other students, you can do that. You can present with each other. Otherwise, if you are alone, I don't know. I hope that you try to present or at least practice, because every chance you get to practice is just going to make you better. And as always, we're going to do 5 minutes of preparation. So I'll give you 5 minutes to make notes and think about the topic. And if you do have other students with you, you can work together and kind of come up with ideas. And you can make notes, but you know, you can make notes. You you should try not to use them, because we're still trying to practice like this is a real class, and like, help us get ready for the presentation. So anyways, I'm going to give you 5 minutes starting now. Okay, class. So I think we're about ready to do our 30-second presentations. Now, excuse me. Uh, for some of you, if you're like me, you may be wearing headphones right now, and it can sound a little awkward to talk. So if you want to do this presentation without your headphones on, you can do that. I'm gonna just when you do this, try to keep an eye on uh, your screen. So to show you that the time has started, I'm going to change the screen size. And then to show you that the time has finished, I will also change the screen size back. So that's just a sign that it's time has stopped and started. Um, or if you leave on your headphones, you'll hear me say stop and start. Okay. So we're going to do this like we normally would. 30 seconds. Ready and go. Okay, stop. All right. And if you are doing this with other students, um, I won't be taking breaks for all of them. So what I recommend you do is you pause the video and give everybody a chance to do their 30-second presentation. And then when you're ready, start the video again. Okay. And so now we can go on. We'll skip that. All right. So obviously, I'm not there to ask you this, but just as I read these questions, think about them and decide if you can answer yes to these questions. So, did you talk for 30 seconds? You probably did because this is your third presentation. Was it organized well? That's probably a yes. I mean, you guys have done this plenty of times now. Could you do a 2-minute presentation without notes, just thinking about or just talking about a student? I would bet that you could. I'm pretty confident that you're getting there. But some students, this might be a little uncomfortable, right? Talking about other people. So if you don't feel you could do 2 minutes, that's totally understandable. So don't worry. Um, because as always, um, I'm gonna help you find sections and focus points, just like we did with our objects and our pictures. Okay. So let's go on and look or start thinking about the sections and focus points. Um, well, let's primarily think about the sections. So this says talk to your group if you're alone, maybe just on your notepad or notebook or paper, write a list of 3 sections that you came up with. Um, yeah, and again, you don't have to put them on the board; just on a piece of paper will do. So I'll give you 1 minute to think about 3 possible sections for the topic of Jamey. Okay, good. So you probably have close to three sections, probably more. Uh, Now, just to try to help you better figure this out, or help you figure out if you've got some good sections here, I'm going to give you an example presentation about myself. And as you're listening, try to listen for the different sections. Um, Now, obviously, there's plenty of sections we could do, but I'm just going to give you what I see as some obvious sections. And well, actually, I can't get started yet. I need to explain something here. Normally, when I give this part of the presentation, I'm standing in front of students telling them this, uh, or talking about myself. But in this case, this was the only picture that I could find. Well, that's not very lovely, is it? Anyways, this is the only picture I could find of myself. I guess. So this is gonna have to work. So just imagine me standing there talking about myself, but in this case, I'm just using a picture. Anyways, let me go ahead and get started. All right. So hello, my name is Jamie, and today I want to talk about the very lovely Jamie. Uh, to start with, I'm going to talk about his head, I guess his face and his head, whatever. Anyways, the first thing you probably noticed about him is his glasses, uh, and Jamie didn't always wear glasses. Uh, uh, this is kind of a sign of his aging. Um, when he was younger, or when I was younger, I used to have perfect vision. In fact, my degree and my undergraduate degree was in photography. So my eyes were always really good, really sharp. I never had the need. I never needed to wear glasses and could see with exquisite detail. But uh, during my undergraduate year or undergraduate studies, I spent a lot of time in computer labs, uh, doing video editing and photo editing, and for long hours late at night. And that started to weaken my eyes. And then it only got worse when I did my master's program. In my master's program, I would spend 6, 7, 8 hours, 9, 10 hours. I don't know, crazy amount of hours uh, uh, sitting in front of a computer, reading or writing or researching, and after that, my eyes were just destroyed. So I can no longer see without glasses because of my studies. So don't study. That's the lesson, I think. All right. And next, you can see that I'm wearing a hat here. It's not really anything significant other than the fact that I often don't fix my hair on the weekends. Or fix my hair ever. So uh, that's the reason I'm probably wearing the hat here. You also see that I've got this kind of shadow, or we call this stubble, this unshaved face. Uh, Not really a choice. I just am kind of lazy, and I only like to shave once a week, and that's why I look have this little trashy mustache. Uh, and you'll also notice that I'm wearing earbuds here. Obviously, in class, I don't wear earbuds, but you might see me around campus wearing earbuds. Often, I'm listening to podcasts. Most of the podcasts I like are news, economics, uh, some design. I don't know if you can understand design, how people listen to design podcasts, but design podcasts and comedy podcasts and technology podcasts. Um, and yeah, I don't really listen to much music anymore. Anyways, that's pretty much all I can say about this head. There's not much else to it, but I want to move down to the rest of my, I guess, lower body. Um, I guess you would describe uh, my fashion as being sort of casual. I do happen to wear a lot of t-shirts, and I prefer stuff that's sort of plain, solid colors. I don't like a lot of stripes or buttons or anything like that, or dots or anything like that. I like very solid, bold colors, um, and I think the reason for it is I think it is a stronger statement, but my wife would disagree. Anyways, yeah, you can see from the rest of me, my whole fashion is pretty casual, kind of messy. And then, well, I guess that pretty much sums it up. Let's move on to my overall physique, my my body. I guess it's uh, well, for the one thing you can see, I don't have any tattoos on my arms or any earrings or anything. Um, I don't really accessorize my body because I don't see myself coming up with any good ideas for tattoos. But and yeah, I don't know. Besides that, I would say that my overall fitness is decent, but you may notice I've got a little bit of a gut here, and that's because I really enjoy eating. I love it, and I love spending time visiting friends and going out for dinner and cooking and stuff like that. So I think that stomach pretty much wrapped some or that stomach symbolizes that. So yeah, that's really all I can say about my stomach and myself. I hope you've learned a bit about me and got to know me better. Thank you. All right. So take a minute and try to think about this question. Did I only talk about sections and or did I only focus on sections and focus points that I could physically see? So take about 10 seconds to think about that. Okay, so you've probably come to the conclusion. You probably answered yes to this question, or sorry, no to this question. It wasn't just stuff that I could see. I talked about, my university experience. I talked about my likes, right? I talked about I like fashion that's just simple and bold colors, and then I gave reasons about that, right? So when we're looking at a person, there's more than just what's on the outside. So when you're thinking about sections, try to think about either what's beneath the outside or what connections we can make from the outside to the person's inner personality or behavior. Anyways, um, there's not many tricks that I can provide at this point because we've kind of covered most of them, but there's one that's sort of really helpful in this situation, and that is to think about how you would interview someone. If you when you're trying to plan for this topic, think about how someone would interview you or how you would interview someone. And this can help you find questions that can you can put on your list of ideas. Remember, you're not going to use the questions; you use the answers to those questions. But if you treat this like an interview, it'll kind of put some distance between you and the subject, so that you don't feel uncomfortable asking somebody questions. Um, and also, it's a way to find sections and focus points because again, you're not really focused on finding those. They'll just kind of develop as you make your list. And the most important thing here is you'll by making these interview style questions, you'll have different style. You'll develop the style to the descriptions or to the answers without knowing it because it'll just be natural. So that's another reason you probably want to try to treat this like an interview. And of course, this will help you in your presentation. In fact, one thing I actually encourage students to do for this presentation is to actually meet with another student, and you and the other student can interview each other, and then you can take each other's answers and use those, or even get new question ideas from each other. So this could be like your practice presentation if you wanted to. So we're going to do another practice presentation, 30 seconds. This time you're going to present about another student. It could be someone from our class, or it could be some friend or whatever. So I'm going to give you 5 minutes to prepare, just like normal. So ready and go. Okay, class. So it's time to do the 30-second presentation. So just like last time, if you're ready, you can start now. 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, and stop. Well, if you need to, give your partners a chance, pause this video and let them do their 30 seconds. All right, let's move on. So, did you talk for 30 seconds? I'm sure you did this time. Was it organized well? I'm sure it was organized much better. Could you do a 2-minute presentation without notes? I believe you could at this point. And also, don't worry, the topic is you. You get it? You're going to talk about another student. You're talking about a student that is you. All right. Very funny, Jamie. Okay. So, grading is pretty much the same. It's 2 to 4 minutes. Where was it 2 to 4 minutes? Did you talk about yourself? Did you talk to the other student? So remember, there will be another student in the class when you do your presentation. Uh, you're not supposed to talk to them. It's just a presentation, not a discussion. Okay. Um, did you have unique sections? Was the information about the topic? So was it about you? So remember, just be careful not to go too far off topic. And was it repeated too much? So some repeating is okay. Could I hear you? Could I understand you? Most students don't really have this kind of problem, so let's move on. Was it organized? So was there an introduction? Did you use signposting? So remember, you use signposting at the introduction and at the beginning and at the end of each section. So don't forget that. And was there a closing? Effort. So did you plan what you wanted to say? Did you read your presentation? So remember, of course, we're not going to read. And did you practice? So most students do pretty well in those parts, uh, from what I can tell. So on the day of the presentation, I will pick the groups. So the groups will be 2 students, and then you will present. Uh, he or she will be the student that you present for. So you'll be talking about yourself in front of one other student and myself. If there's an odd number of students, so if there's 9 students, 11 students, 13 students, whatever, one student may have to listen to 2 presentations. So this student will present first and then listen to the next 2 presentations. Um, this student does not get bonus points, but this student can choose to go first, so they will get first pick of when to. They will get to go for the first 2 presentations, so that way they can leave early. So they get a guaranteed leave early time. And if you don't understand this, don't worry. I'll explain this all next class. So in conclusion, don't forget to make a list. Maybe interview. Maybe you can skip practicing with a partner if you do interviewing. Don't forget to look for your focus points and sections, make your outline, and use signposts. And remember, this will all help you learn your presentation and become better at doing your presentations. All right, so if you want to take a break, now would be a good time to take a break. Um, just remember, don't close the video window uh, because then you'll have to start from the beginning. For students that are not going to take a break, we are going to continue on. So let's get to the grammar. So in our life, our actions have results. So for example, these actions, like when you go to bed late, if you do not study enough, these have actions, right? So there could be many possible results to these actions. Some possible results could be these, right? Like when you go to bed late, you feel terrible the next day. Or if you don't study enough, you will not pass the test, right? So these would be the results. So to get you started here, I'm gonna get you thinking about this grammar point. I'm gonna show you some actions, and then I'm gonna ask you to, if, if you have partners with you, work with your partners, or if not, just think about this alone. Uh, uh, make some results to go with the actions. So, for example, if class finishes early, you might say, I will go to lunch, right? So if you're doing this with partners, maybe you each come up with your own answer, or yeah, that's probably best. Each of you come up with your own answer, all right? So here's the first one. If we miss lunch, I'll give you maybe about 30 seconds to think about this. Okay, so uh, you probably came up with a pretty good answer. Your answer might look something like this. These are some answers that I've heard over the years from students. Like, if we miss lunch, we will feel terrible. That's, yeah, everybody feels that way, right? Next one, if we miss lunch, our teacher will feed us. Yeah, I've never done that, but maybe some teachers do. I don't do that. If we miss lunch, it will be difficult to learn. Yeah, that's definitely true. I know I only think about food when I'm hungry. So, so if your answers looked anything like this, you're good. If not, don't worry. We're going to practice a little more. So let's try another one. Here's the action when I meet my friends in Seoul. So think about what the result could be. I'll give you 30 seconds. Okay. So you might have said something like this. When I meet my friends in Seoul, I feel excited. Sure, we all do. When I meet my friends in Seoul, we make plans to shop. You might have made plans to do something else, like go to a Noribong or something. I don't know. When I meet my friends in Seoul, they tell me to leave. Oof, that one's a bit rough. I hope that student was joking. Anyways, let's move on. That's too bad. So the next one, if Jamie wins $1 million in the lotto, and just to be clear, $1 million would be 1 billion won. So that's, I think, yut or yok. I can't remember the pronunciation. But anyways, it's a lot of money. So think of a possible result. I'll give you 30 seconds. Okay, you probably got a dozen ideas for this one, but let me tell you, I've heard so many. I've heard them all before. So a lot of them start like this: He will give us all the money. No, I won't. If Jamie wins $1 million in the lotto, he may offer me the money. That student was very selfish. Good answer, but selfish. If Jamie wins $1 million in the lotto, he will leave DGU. That's, yeah, that's probably pretty true. That's, I'm afraid that's, sorry, class. Life is short. Okay. Uh, anyways, let's go on to really look at this stuff. So um, we looked at how actions can lead to results. In this case, I'm using results to mean conditions. So results and conditions are kind of the same thing here. Um, there are several types of conditions, condition statements, and in your book on pages 195 to 196 at the bottom, uh, you'll see a list of several condition types or kinds. Um, now, mine starts with the list. My list starts with forecasts. I changed that because in the book it says things that will become true. Forecasts are usually things that will become true. They're more true. They're more likely than like a prediction. That's kind of the best comparison I can make. So forecasts are pretty much true, and then predictions may be true, may happen. Anyways, let's get a little challenge in here to help you better understand this. So before I give you complete examples of action and condition statements, let's see if you can identify them. So here's what you're going to do. I'm going to put up some just a condition statement. So there's not going to be any action. And you have to decide, you can talk to your partners or think about this. Decide which kind it is from that list. So let's look at the first one. This one says I usually sit in a seat. So this one's kind of tough, but I'll give you about 30 seconds for this one. So which one is it? Is it a forecast, a habit, advice, instruction, prediction, deal, compromise, promise, or warning? So take 30 seconds and think about this one. Okay, so this one is a habit, and kind of the key here is this word usually. I usually sit in a seat. Um, so without the action here, it's kind of hard to figure out. So if you didn't get it, don't worry. You know, there's a lot of open spaces for all these different categories, and usually it helps to see the first one to understand how to get the other ones. So don't worry if you didn't get the first one. You'll definitely get the second or third. So take a look at this one. They may lose the game. So which one? Which type of uh, condition you think this is? I'll give you 30 seconds for this one as well. Okay. Okay. So this one is a prediction. Because may is kind of the hint here. They may lose the game, so it's a possibility. That's kind of the hint, right? So usually a prediction I like to think of as a guess. It may be stronger than a guess, right? There might be a better chance of it happening than a guess, but uh, between forecasts and predictions is, I think a prediction is closer to a guess than a forecast is. Okay, so let's look at this one. It will snow tomorrow. So I'll give you 20 seconds for this one. Okay, so this one is a forecast, and the hint here is will, and also, of course, tomorrow, and even the word snow. Will snow tomorrow. That's kind of uh, a pretty strong hint that that's a forecast. In when we talk about weather, like whether that's going to happen uh, later, like a few hours later, or tomorrow, or even the next day after. These are, we usually call these weather forecasts because there's a strong science behind uh, 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 planning for the weather, or reading the weather patterns to know what's going to happen, and that's called weather forecasting or meteorology. So whenever we talk about whether it's going to snow tomorrow or rain tomorrow or be sunny tomorrow, we call that a forecast, and that's usually pretty much 100, almost 100% accurate. So that's why I say a forecast is stronger than a prediction. All right, let's look at the next one. Use a seatbelt. Okay, so I'll give you just 20 seconds for this one. Okay, so this one is actually instruction. And it's tricky because it sounds like it could be a warning. It sounds like it could be advice. But the key here is there's no subject before it. So whenever a sentence starts with a verb like use or take or bring, that's like a command. So an instruction is like a command. That's why if you got that one wrong, it's understandable because it kind of could looks like it could be a warning, or it kind of looks like it could be advice. All right, let's look at the next one. I will buy the popcorn. So this one, this should be a lot easier. I'll give you just 10 seconds for this. Okay, so this one is a, well, it's under this deal compromise promise section. So this is kind of a big section. I would, or a big category. I would call this kind of condition a promise condition. Uh, it's just saying like it's my job. I choose to buy the popcorn, so you don't have to. That's kind of how I'm reading this sentence. And here it's the hint is I will buy, right? I will do something. All right, next one. Eating healthy is important. So this one should be pretty easy. So I think you've probably already got this. It's probably not a warning, right? You probably figured out it's advice, right? I mean, eating healthy, that's, and then I think the key here is actually important because, usually advice is giving an opinion, and anytime we see an adjective like important or strong or busy or dirty, you're giving an opinion or you're giving it a feeling. So the last one is also very easy. You will lose points. I'm sure you've heard this from many teachers. Not me, of course. I'm not that kind of teacher. You never hear me say that. I Warnings are just you will lose points. You will break something. You will, right. These are usually threats or some kind of negative consequence or negative condition. Right. So that was pretty easy. All right. So we've got all our different conditions here. We've got our condition statements and the different categories that they go with. And as we know, actions lead to these results or lead to these conditions. So um, by adding action statements, we actually get a lot more detail and clarity in these sentences. So the one that I think really becomes clear is the habit. So before it was just I usually sit in a seat. Well, now it says I usually sit in a seat when I ride the bus, right? So this this action, when this happens, this is the condition that usually happens, right? This is the habit. Uh, uh, so this is the condition result, right? Um, Same thing. Let's see. I think the instruction gets a lot clearer here as well. You can't see it. Just a second. Okay, so so use a seatbelt, or sorry, whenever you ride in a car, right? When that action happens, the result should always be use a seatbelt. That's the instruction, right? Uh, um, the warning, I think, was clear to begin with, but you know, if you come late, you will lose points, right? So action, this action happens, this is the result, right? Uh, oh, and deal and compromise promise. This one has changed. We said I will buy the popcorn. That sounded like a promise, but now we have this other action that comes with it. That's if you buy the tickets, I will buy the popcorn. So this becomes a deal now, because it's like you do that, I do this, right? Uh, so that's a pretty. I mean, a compromise is kind of the same thing, roughly the same thing. So yeah, that's a pretty good example of a deal. Um, yeah, and predictions. So they may lose the game, right? So we said this was a possibility if they don't train, right? If they don't exercise. All right. So now that we have all these examples, this is really good to come to. Uh, the book has several examples as well. Those I think are just as good. I just put this up here. I just liked how this looked with these condition statements. I thought this kind of makes it clear, uh, and then when you add the action statements, it becomes even more clear. So if you're wondering what type it should be, look look at look at it with the action and condition statement, and then look at it just with the condition statement. All right, so let's do a little more practice. I will show you. This is kind of like what we did before. Before I showed you some action statements. Now I'm going to show you some results or conditions, and then you either work alone or work with your partners to come up with actions. So, for example, I will go to lunch, and then your action might be if class finishes early, right? So this was the action that I came up based off of. I will go to lunch. So yeah, try to do this alone, and then maybe share with your partners. So here's the first one. I will visit a PC room. So I'm going to give you 30 seconds for this one. Try to come up with an action. Okay, so I hope you got some answers. Here's some common ones that I've heard from students. I will visit a PC room when my exams are finished. I think that's common feeling for a lot of students. I will visit a PC room if Jamey finishes class early. Well, that would be nice if Jamey finished class early, right? Uh, anyways, next one. I will visit a PC room when we take a break. Now that student, I don't know what that student was thinking. Man, that just doesn't seem right to me. All right, let's go on to the next one. Students will enjoy the spring festival. Okay, so I'll give you 30 seconds for this one as well. Okay, so You probably shared some of your answers with your partners, and here are some more. So, students will enjoy the spring festival when they skip class. Ooh, that was a bad student there. Okay. Students will enjoy the spring festival if Jamie goes. Oh, that's a nice little thought there. I like that. Students will enjoy the spring festival if their classes are canceled. Yeah, that makes sense. That's probably true. Okay, so those were some good actions to go with those results. How about this one? My friend will not travel. That's probably blue. Will not travel during summer break. So I'll give you 30 seconds for this one too. Okay, so you probably got your answers. I'll put in mine. Friend will not travel during summer break if she fails her classes. Oh, that's sad. My friend will not travel during summer break if he doesn't make enough money. That's also sad. My friend will not travel during summer break when I go to Paris. That's not a good friend there. Okay, let's move on. So take a look at these three sentences and try to find the results or try to find the conditions. So I guess you can just look for the condition verbs. I'll give you a minute for this. Okay, so you probably got it by now. Um, go is the result in sentence one. Play is the result in sentence two. So, like, we go to Loteria. I usually play with it. It is the dog. Our friends will try to go to the spring festival, so we'll try. So, the what I wanted to point out here is that when you're making these action condition sentences, you have to remember a few things. First, you have to remember that the action word always follows if, when, or whenever. So we can see here in sentence one, when the school cafeteria menu is terrible. So after when, we get the action. In sentence two, whenever Julie's dog is friendly. So, and again, in is comes after whenever. And then in sentence three, if they leave, so if, and then the action. Uh, the result or the condition comes after. It can be either comes after the comma. So in this sentence, whenever starts the sentence. So we put a comma at the end of or after the action statement, and then just after that we put in the condition statement. So after the comma, so whenever we see whenever, if, or when, we know we're going to have to add a comma. Okay. Uh, the other times we see the result is before when or if or whenever. So we see here when, go, if, we'll try, right? So just be aware that's how that works. And so let's go ahead and do a little bit of practice. Um, open your books, go to page 196. So here's what you see on page 196. And in all of these sentences, the result comes first and then the action comes. So you can see here in sentence one, the result is we can continue, like can continue the game. And then the action is rain stops. So stops is the action here. So what you have to do is just flip that order. So let me show you what that looks like. So you have to start with the action when the rain stops. The result, we can continue the game. So I'm going to give you about, say, 6 minutes to try and finish changing the action result order for these sentences. Okay, you can go ahead and start now. Sorry to interrupt class, but keep working, and if you get the chance, uh, if you have time, check your answers with your partners if you have partners there with you. Okay, I think that's probably enough time. Uh, Anyways, let's go ahead and check. So, um, what you'll notice is all of the sentences should now start with if or when. I don't think there's any whenevers here, right? Um, one of the things you need to be careful of is make sure you didn't forget any of your commas, and make sure you have them in the right spots. Um, if you miss that on a test, you like, for example, number 5, if you didn't have the comma here on the test, you would lose a point. Or if the comma was in the wrong spot, you would lose a point. So you need to be able to clearly identify what is an action statement and what is a condition statement. Okay. We've got one more activity here, and this is a little bonus activity. So I want you to look at the list you have on page, I think it's page 196 and 197. Oops. Oh, sorry, 195 and 196 of all the uh, uh, conditions, the different conditions, and try to match them with the sentence. So you can see number 1, this is a forecast, right? So try to find the other conditions. I'll give you 2 minutes to figure that out. All right, so let's go ahead and check. So we've got number 2 is a promise. I can give you my tickets, right? Number 3 is advice, right? You should stay home, right? Sounds like an opinion. Number 4 is a habit. I don't like the noise of cheering. Yeah, I think habit's kind of the best answer for that. Um, let's see. Number 5 is a promise. I'll put on my uniform. Number 6, we'll play again next week. That's a that's definitely a prediction, right? Um, it's not a real guarantee because, right, if the game was canceled once before, just to say it won't be canceled the next week. And number 7, you can't play. That's us. Clear warning. And if you miss the shot, my team wins, right? That's gonna happen. So don't miss that shot. So if you have any questions about any of the stuff covered in this lesson or anything, feel free to email me or meet me in class and talk to me. I'm more than happy to help. And don't forget to check the homework and make sure you're ready to do whatever you need to do for the homework. Thank you, and I hope you have a good time, day. I don't know where you are right now, but enjoy yourself. All right. Thank you. Bye bye.